You're listening to the Passionista Podcast, episode number 4. Welcome to the Passionista Podcast, where we believe that passion is everything. I'm Lindsay Nadler, empowerment coach and leader of the Passionista community. Here on the podcast, you'll find inspiring stories of women who've turned their passion into a reality, as well as the best coaching tips and resources so you can do the same and walk out your calling with confidence. All right, Passionista, let's get to it. Well, hello, Passionista. Welcome to today's episode. Listen, before we get started, just a little disclaimer. Today's going to get up in your grill a little bit. So just lean into me. Know I love you. Know that I care about you and your dreams. So don't bail on me. We're going to get real today because I'm talking about some things that can really steal from your passion, can really kill from your passion if you are not aware. Because what we've got to do as mature individuals is learn how to protect and steward our passion. We've got to learn how to take care of what makes us come alive. And that comes from being aware of things when we're burnout, when we're apathetic, when we're aimless, when we feel confused, when we feel like, you're questioning, who am I and what am I supposed to be doing? And, we all go through these little, downward in our own heads, in our feelings, get out of our own way, hormonal, whatever you want to call it. We all go through these things. But so today I want to outline some of the common things that can steal from us and kill our passion. And I've been doing this for a little bit now, and I see the same patterns come up over and over again. And so I'm going to talk about 5 of the most common. These are certainly not the only ones, but they're the most common that I see, and how we can protect from these things. So the 5 things that typically come in and are present when you feel your passion kind of dropping off, or you're not feeling a certain way, or you're not, you kind of feel off. These are some things that I want you to begin to check for. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and then we're going to break them down. So the 5 things are: number 1 is comparison. Number 2 is unforgiveness. Number 3 is autopilot. Number 4 is procrastination. And then number 5, it's probably the biggest one, and that is limiting beliefs. So we're going to break these down. We're going to talk about what they are and how to, just some simple shifts on how to overcome them. And here's what I want to encourage you on. Again, you have a free will. You have a choice. You have the power within you through a relationship, an intimate relationship with God, to overcome all of these things. Not all of these things have to be a huge, giant struggle, where we journal for 10 hours and go to therapy and just sit in it forever. Now, you may need to go do those things, and that's awesome. But a lot of these things can just a simple shift, a simple change in focus can really make all of the difference. So let's break them down. Number 1 is comparison. You've probably heard it said a lot that comparison is the thief of joy. And that's true, but we need to understand why comparison is the thief of joy. And, I'm just going to shoot it to you straight. A lot of people like to talk about, comparison, let's collaboration over competition. We try to kind of put this little nice bow on what comparison is, as if it's like a, it's just like a normal thing, or, it's not that big of a deal of what it is. But listen, comparison is the fruit of some things in your soul that can get really ugly really quick. Comparison is a fruit of insecurity. Comparison is a fruit of jealousy and covetousness. Comparison can quickly turn into judgment and bitterness. So here's what I mean. Comparison can quickly look like, you think you're better than someone, or you're offended at someone. You're comparing, how they should be or shouldn't respond. It can quickly get into judgment and bitterness. It can quickly turn into self-righteousness and pride. So we need to be aware of what, when we say we're comparing, are we really comparing, quotation marks here, or is this judgment? Is this bitterness? Is this thinking your way is the best? Is it self-righteousness? Is it insecurity and jealousy, because all of those things, when all those things are present, I guarantee you're not focusing on your own dreams, your own aliveness, your own relationship with God. And here's the deal. God did not call you to live out her journey and her calling and her purpose. He called you to live out your life. So we've got to focus on, you do you. You keep your eyes on what God has called you to, looking, we're not looking to the right or to the left. Like, we are in the zone, we're in the flow. When you begin to compare and get jealous or insecure or think, well, oh, what is she doing over there? And oh, she copied me. And oh, she's trying to be like me. Like, it's all one colossal distraction. And before we know it, we're wondering, like, where'd my motivation go? Where'd my inspiration go? Where'd my excitement go? Well, you only have so much energy, and your energy is going to things that are actually killing you. So you have to begin to look at yourself and begin to own the fact that you are an energetic being. We are full of vibrations. That's a scientific fact. You can call it new age, whatever. I think that's a load of bull crap. The reality is science tells us that we are vibrating beings. We have vibrations. We are energy beings. That's what makes us different. So you've got to begin to look and say, I've only got this amount of energy. What I focus on grows. I'm going to focus on what God has called me to, the unique, special things that He's given me. And I'm going to go full forward towards that. I'm going to press on. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to be courageous. I'm going to be victorious. I'm going to bless and release other people. I'm going to support, encourage, and empower other people. And I think it's so important, like, own your stuff. Why are you comparing yourself to other people? And that can be in a good or a bad way. Like, oh, well, I'm doing better than her. Or it could be, oh, well, she has all these things and I don't. Like, you've got to look at the innermost workings of your heart, own it, cleanse it, and then get back to what makes you come alive and what the purpose is for you. So here's one thing that I think is really important for you to keep in front of you when it comes to this whole comparison thing is the only person that you need to compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. Let me say that again. The only person that you need to compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. And win the day. Every day, choose, like, I'm going to win the day. And if you find yourself starting to want to compare, starting to want to scroll down the social media, and you can't encourage the people that are there, let me just say, you need to unfollow them. You need to unfriend them. You need to block them, whatever, do whatever you've got to do to protect your heart. Because if you're following someone and you can't like their posts, you can't share their stuff because you're jealous or you're insecure or you're comparing or you're competing, like, in a negative way, or you're judging or you're self-righteous, you don't need to be following them. You don't need to be stalking their stuff and looking at their stuff. If you can't encourage and empower and share, regardless of what's going on, then you don't even need to look at it because it's only harming you. So comparison is the real deal. Y'all stay with me because I told you I might be stepping on some toes today. No, I love you. So comparison, it is the thief of joy because joy can't be present next to jealousy and insecurity and bitterness and self-righteousness and pride and all that jazz. Really stay focused on your own calling, your own journey, your own wilderness deal. God is not calling you to be anyone else but you. So be you, be the best version of you. And the best version of you is the version of you that looks the most like Jesus, is the most intimately connected with Him. All right. So number 2, the second thing that kills our passion is unforgiveness. Oh my gosh, there's so much goes into this one, but gosh, guys, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. When you're when you are holding things, when you're holding things in your heart against another person, it actually binds you to that person. And there are so many spiritual blocks and things that you're being held back from because you are tied to that other individual. Now, here's some things that I want to say about forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean that it's okay. Forgiveness does not mean that doesn't have to be justice. Forgiveness does not mean that there are no consequences. Forgiveness also doesn't mean that you have to be in relationship with that person. Reconciliation is different than relationship. Relationship comes through a building of trust and boundaries, and that is really on the other party. So all forgiveness is simply releasing them for God to deal with them. It's taking you off of the throne, the seat of judgment, and putting them at the feet of Jesus, letting God deal with them, bless them, release them. It's not allowing that person to take up any emotional space in your soul, which is your heart, your mind, your will, and your emotions. So it's really a releasing. Now, I have this whole process that I walk a lot of my clients through. There's actually a video of this in the Passionista community, our free Facebook group. So if you're not in that Facebook group, like seriously, what are you waiting for? Come get in the group. I did a whole live teaching on the forgiveness pages, which is my process of walking through forgiveness. And I've come back to this over and over and over. It's this 4-step little process that I feel like God showed me. And there's so much freedom and so many people really resonated with it. So the reality is that we have an opportunity to walk through the forgiveness pages every week. There's very real trauma that gets in the way, hurts, betrayal, grief, all of these things. And we have to learn how to forgive. And really from our heart, forgiveness sometimes can be, because we are so trained to like be the good girl Christians. Well, we forgive because we have to. Well, I forgive, but we haven't actually really processed the hurt. And that has to come before like what I believe is true forgiveness from the heart. So who do you need to forgive? Who are you like holding in your own little mental cell? When you choose to stay in unforgiveness and bitterness, you're actually putting yourself in a prison of your own making, to which you have the key to, but you're choosing to stay in that prison because honestly, let's just be real, being angry and bitter sometimes feels good. We want that person to pay. We want to punish them. Anger and bitterness can sometimes be a fuel source for us. And we've got to learn to let God have it. Trust me. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Like you don't let him get them. God's going to get them. God's going to handle it because we reap what we sow. Like I'm a firm believer in that you reap what you sow and it's going to come back to them. So we've got to forgive. We've got to let go. We've got to learn to release. That's really all forgiveness is in its simplest terms. If we boil it down to forgiveness is about releasing. It's about unlocking the chains that we've put on ourselves because we're dragging this other person around with us everywhere we go. And I don't know about y'all, but like the people that have really hurt you, abused you, betrayed you, gossiped about you, not acknowledged you, whatever, like I don't want to be carrying them around with me everywhere I go. Like, I don't want them taking up any more space or stealing from me any more than they already have. And when we refuse to forgive, we allow that person to continue to hurt us and to continue to steal from us. Unforgiveness is like so ugly on us. And listen, y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but here's the deal. I have literally seen women walk through a forgiveness process in like some inner healing sessions where they come out of that thing, they physically look different. Their face is glowing. They have more energy. Their presence is different because when you harbor that stuff in you, it makes you sick from the inside out. So, and I'm sure you've all seen women that are bitter. It like ages you by 10 years. So anti-aging strategy, skip the expensive night cream. And it's like, who do you need to forgive? Let's forgive them. Bless and release, put them at the hands and feet of God. So that was number 2. And that was definitely a overview of it. For real, go in the Passionista community, watch the forgiveness pages. You know that there's some people you need to forgive. Go do it. All right. The third thing that steals from our passion that we have to protect against, you guys hear me preach this all the time, and it is the tendency for us to live our lives on autopilot. What I mean by this is like, you're just going through the motions. You are just thinking about surviving each day. There's no intentionality. There's no, we live our lives primarily reactive instead of proactive, where we're just trying to sedate ourselves and just get through. Now, listen, there are some times in life that I know we're just trying to make it. We're just trying to survive the season, and that's cool, but don't stay there. It's amazing to me how sometimes people get stuck in a certain season and rhythm of their life, and their eyes begin to like evolve. It's kind of like when you get in a dark room, then your eyes adjust to the dark room and you think that's just how things are supposed to be. That's not the case. Your life is not meant to be lived on autopilot. And when you begin to like find yourself in a go through the motion, apathetic, just get it done, Groundhog Day mentality, you've got to break the pattern. One of my favorite ways to break that pattern of autopilot, and it's even in like the rhythms and routines, rituals that I have, because I realize how very much human beings have the tendency, especially spiritually speaking, to put our spiritual, our personal growth on autopilot. And we're actually meant to be fully present in everything that we're doing. And I'm very aware, especially for me as a more task-oriented individual, how I can turn just about anything into a to-do list where, check box, checked it off. And I'm not being present for my life. I'm turning my spiritual growth, whatever it is, just into a bunch of tasks. And when we do that and we're not fully present, we miss out on the lessons. We begin to get immune to the voice of God. We begin to, because He's always speaking. I truly believe that. Sometimes we're just on different frequencies. We're on different radio channels, and it's our job to tune into the channel that He's on. And we do that by being fully present and getting off of autopilot. I believe that every day God is inviting us on another little adventure. He's whispering to us. He's wooing us. He's like, hey, do you want to come see this? Like, the Holy Spirit is the most exciting, adventurous, funny, truth-telling person ever. Like this, our spiritual growth is not meant to be stale and a bunch of rules, a bunch of religion. And we've got to get ourselves off of autopilot. We've got to get away from, we're just the secretary of our homes. We're just the efficiency queens. We're just the taskmaster of the home. Like we're just running it like a well-oiled machine. Like all that's cool, but what's the state of your heart? Is your heart on autopilot, or are we looking for the adventure? Are we looking for the ways that God is beckoning us? Is He calling us to more? And I think this can be really present if you will look for the ways that God is inviting you to be inconvenienced every day. Like if we're on autopilot, we get immune. We're not sensitive to the voice of the Holy Spirit when He's saying, hey, do you really see that grocery store clerk? Do you really see that woman who's hurting? Are you paying attention? Are you tuned in to the frequency? Are you tuned into the vibration? Because He's got ideas and creativity waiting for you. He's got like all of the good things, but we're on a different radio channel of autopilot, and we got to get tuned in to His frequency. So autopilot is not your friend. And we typically go into autopilot again in our need for certainty and control. And that's just not how we're meant to live. Now, I do believe that habits are great, rhythms, rituals are great, but when they take the play in your spiritual and personal growth life, where it's just another thing and you're not fully present, it can be dangerous, and it's something that you want to check for. So maybe you get up every day and you read a certain devotional. Change the devotional up. You're still getting up every day and doing something for you, but maybe we need to change what we're reading. So I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. So we're changing up the way that we are tuning into the frequency of God. That's really the point that I'm trying to make. Get off of autopilot. Let me say this again. I feel like I say this every episode. You are not called just to get up every day, go to work, pay your bills, and then wait for the rapture. You're being called into a wildly free life that is an adventure. It's the wilderness. It's amazing. Like, we're advancing the kingdom of God. We're making an impact every day with our lives. And we've got to be willing to ask ourselves, are we willing to be inconvenienced? Are we willing to go on an adventure? Adventure over autopilot. There is something every day for you. Get tuned in. All right. So the number 4 thing is procrastination. All right. Okay. Now everybody lean in again. No, I love you. I keep saying that disclaimer, but here's the deal. You probably don't struggle with procrastination because you're lazy. You might be lazy. You may have a little sloth going on, but I highly doubt it. Most of the time, because we're struggling with procrastination, is because there's an evil twin sister lurking behind the scenes, and she's called perfectionism. Yes, girlfriend. We all struggle, I think, to a certain degree with perfectionism. And perfectionism says, if I am not perfect and I don't do everything right and I don't have all the right answers, then I'm not worthy. And many people procrastinate and they never begin because they are afraid of not being perfect. And what they truly believe, their unconscious belief, is that if they are not perfect, then they're not enough, then they're not worthy. And that is a lie straight from the pit of hell that we've really got to go after. So I would pose the question, people always ask, like, how do I stay motivated? Well, motivation is a myth. It's just a feeling. What are you passionate about? You don't lack motivation. You don't lack work ethic. You're lacking passion. And when people ask me that, where's my motivation? Oh, my inspiration, my work ethic, I just can't get going. I can't get started. What they're saying is, like, some procrastination has set in. They're stuck. They're halted. And I believe that perfectionism is pretty much always lurking nearby. So what is the standard that you've set for yourself? Listen, done is better than perfect. Get started. Take action. Because take action and then be okay with failure. Practice fast failure. This goes back to the previous episode that I did on the 4 stages of passion. When you begin to take action, you're going to fail. You're going to mess up. You're not going to get everything right. That is part of the learning process. And as a mature, self-aware, emotionally intelligent individual, you've got to be willing to stop personalizing your failure. Like, you're learning something new. You're doing something new. Give yourself grace. Like, stop being so hard on yourself and demanding that everything be perfect. Tell that inner critic, which, by the way, is not always the enemy. It's you. You've got this inner critic where you're just abusing yourself. You're just terrorizing yourself because you've got this standard that is not the standard of God. It's your inner critic standard that's rooted in shame and perfectionism and a lack of self-worth that you've been listening to. And a lot of times that inner critic creeped in an effort to protect you, in an effort to motivate you. And now it's turned ugly, and now it's abusing you, and you need to learn. We've got to develop the skill set to tell the inner critic to shut up, that you're in the driver's seat of your life. Thank you for trying to protect me, but you need to get back in the passenger seat because you're in charge of what goes on in your mind. Okay. Listen, you are in control of your thoughts and your feelings. Yes, you are. God has given you a free will. He tells us over and over again to be renewed, to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, that we're a new creation. He says, whatever is noble, pure, praiseworthy, right? Like, if anything at all, think on these things. So we've got to look at what is the inner critic telling us and replace the lies for truth. And that leads us to number 5. This is probably the biggest one, and that's our limiting beliefs. What do you believe? What do you have a fixed mindset about yourself, your circumstances, your situation? What's your self-talk like? What are you telling yourself? What are the words that are coming out of your mouth? So here is a great little tool that you can use for emotional management, limiting beliefs. Let's say you wake up, or you're in a phase, you're in a place, you're in your feelings. where you're just feeling off. And instead of being led by the feeling, like your feeling of unmotivated, your feeling of this, your feeling of that, and moving from that place as self-aware, emotionally intelligent adults, because that's what we're all learning to be, we just take a minute and pause and say, okay, instead of asking, how am I feeling? What am I feeling? And being led from that place, we then ask, okay, what am I thinking today? What are the thoughts that I'm thinking? Because all your beliefs and your feelings stem from what you're believing. Okay? Thoughts create beliefs. Beliefs create feelings. Feelings create actions. So if you want to change the action, you need to go back to the beginning and what are you thinking? Ask the Holy Spirit to show you what you're believing. What are you believing to be true? So what do you believe to be true about God? What do you believe to be true about yourself? What do you believe to be true about other people? What do you believe to be true about how the world works? Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? And I'll do a whole episode on fixed thinking versus growth thinking, but just to give you a little snippet, it's like a fixed mindset says like there's only one way. Like some people are born confident, some people are not. A growth mindset says I can learn confidence. I can learn how to be a better person. A fixed mindset is I tried, I failed, so I'm a failure. And that's just not for me. A growth mindset says, I'm learning new things. I can do it again. I'm going to get up again. I'm going to try again. I can learn new things. I can do hard things. So you've got to ask yourself every day, what am I believing to be true? And then from that place, I can take action. So if you're feeling off, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling a certain way, unmotivated, backtrack, reverse engineer that bad boy and say, what am I really thinking? What have I been thinking lately? Do you think about what you think about? Now, this isn't like a time for us to get super neurotic and start navel gazing and, getting all up in our head. It's a simple shift, guys. What am I thinking? Holy Spirit, what am I believing to be true that's not true? Show me the way. Okay, I'm going to replace the lie for the truth. And then here's the thing. Here's the kicker, okay? When you replace the lie with truth, you have to then take action despite the feeling. The feeling may not go away just yet, but as you take action, rooted in this new place, we're going to rewire our brains. We're going to create a new thought pattern. We're going to create a new way of believing. We're going to create a new way of living and taking action. So you have to take action despite what you're feeling so we can rewire our brains to a more positive, growth-oriented place. The process of mind renewal is a process. It's replacing a lie with the truth and then taking action despite what you're feeling. Listen, your feelings are important. Your feelings are valuable. And I'm not talking right now about processing grief or trauma or any of those things like that. Okay, processing pain. I'm talking about the day in, day out, limiting beliefs, mindset, negative self-talk, negative thoughts that may be bombarding your mind on a minute-by-minute basis and how to overcome those. Your feelings are important, but they're not facts. And we can't be led primarily by feelings that are created from negative, limiting beliefs and self-talk. You have been given the ability to change your thoughts. Change your thoughts and you're going to change your life. So remember, you're not given a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. So, okay, guys, that was it for today's episode. Just to recap, 5 things that can kill your passion are comparison, unforgiveness, autopilot, procrastination, and limiting beliefs. We have to learn how to protect ourselves from these things. We do so when we become self-aware that they're happening in the first place, and then we take the appropriate action. That's again in alignment with the love of God. Perfect love casts out all fear, which, by the way, all of these things are really rooted in a place of fear. When you begin to ask yourself, what is it that I'm actually afraid of? And then crush that fear with love, crush that fear, that limiting belief, that negative self-talk, the perfectionism, the survival mode, the bitterness, the unforgiveness, the comparison. When you crush all that stuff with love and get in tune and alignment with what makes you come alive, that intimate relationship with God, things are going to change in your life. So if you need more help and a great community to work through this, and definitely come get inside the Passionista community. That's our free Facebook group. I would love to see your face over there. Until next time. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And because I am so grateful, I want to give you something for free. Head over to lindsaynadler.com where you can download my completely free confidence affirmation and mantra that you can use every single day to instantly boost your confidence and renew your mind. And if you are loving all of the free content you're getting here on the podcast, do me a favor, hit that subscribe